Hello everyone and welcome to my Facebook Live this evening. I am super excited to be hosting you guys here. I have arranged for an incredible guest speaker today, my really good friend and a mentor actually in the wedding industry, Kelly Mortimer. We will learn a little bit more about Kelly in just a moment. I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself and make sure that everything works. But I think we're live and everything is on spot. Perfect, fantastic, guys. So just to a little bit of a housekeeping before we get started. Kelly is already joining us, saying she's excited to be here, which is amazing. I am super excited to have Kelly with us, and I'll tell you about Kelly in just a moment. But just a couple of housekeeping things. So we are currently going live on my Facebook page, The Wedding Guru Oscar, also in my group and on YouTube as well. We highly encourage questions, comments, and opinion in the comment box below. It's a one-off opportunity. Kelly doesn't normally do these mini wedding planning sessions, and she has kindly agreed to put this together for you guys. So I'm super excited and I highly encourage for you to ask the questions because she's got 20 years of experience planning weddings around the world and supporting venues around the world as well. So I'm highly encouraging questions. There will be an open Q&A at the end of our session as well, but if you've got any questions as we're going through the session, make sure you pop them in the comment box below as well. We are using a streaming software called StreamYard, therefore we highly recommend for you guys to give them permission to share your names up on the screen so that Kelly and I can address you by names as well. Make sure that you comment in the comment box below, say hello, tell us your name, tell us where you're coming from, what stage are you at with your wedding planning, what certain things that we could help you with in relation to your wedding planning, anything at all. We would love to learn a little bit more, and we're super excited to be putting this wedding planning session for you as well. One thing that I wanted to say before we get started, I am in fact actually running a competition today for a chance to win a free 1-hour wedding planning consultation with myself. And if you would like to be in for a chance to win this competition, make sure you share this Facebook Live publicly on your Facebook wall. That way we can spread the word and make sure it's public so that I can check back at the end of our session today. And I will be announcing the winner right at the end as we are finishing up as well. I just need to remember that we do that as well. And again, there we go. Kelly says, "Ooh, competition!" Absolutely. Who doesn't like competition? We all love them. So let's keep it positive as well. But like I said to you guys, it is a very informal chat with Kelly and I. Kelly's got a fantastic workshop organized for you guys. So make sure you maximize your opportunity and ask questions as well. We've got Facebook user, Kelly is the most smiley person online, I know, as well as you, Oscar. Thank you very much, whoever you are, Facebook user, guys. And just a quick reminder, if you don't give StreamYard the little permission and the link above us right now, that's what's going to come up on the screen as a Facebook user. If you're fine with that, no problem. But please make sure that you mention your name so we can address you by names as well. Perfect. I think we've got plenty of us joining already, so I'm just going to start moving things forward and do a little bit of an overview of what you can expect today. So a little introduction to begin with. I will tell you about what's about to happen. We've got another comment. Hello, Oscar and Kelly. Lovely to see you guys. Fat finger, sorry, that's okay, that's no problem at all. We love comments, guys, highly encourage comments. The more engagement there is, the more informative and educational we can make it for you today as well. And it is all about creating those experiences for you guys so you can take it away and help you with your wedding plans as well. After the introductions, I will introduce officially Kelly into her mini wedding planning session by Kelly, and at the end we will have an open Q&A as well. But please do ask questions as we are going through our life today as well. Just a little introduction about myself before we get started. So my name is Oscar. I started the Wedding Guru Oscar back in December last year. Before that, I've been involved with the wedding industry for over a decade now, and I've had the pleasure of working with weddings full on from operational side, logistical side of weddings, and delivering weddings on the day, running them, emceeing at weddings as well for the first 4.5 years of my career. And then I went into full on wedding planning, looking after couples from the moment of inquiry through the entire wedding planning process to the wedding day and on the day coordination as well. It was at that time that I have been honoured by couples to have won and been nominated for awards with the Scottish Vows Awards and Scottish Hotel Awards as well. During that time, I have also contributed to publications with the biggest wedding blog, Love My Dress, and the biggest Jewish blog, Jewish wedding blog, Smashing the Glass. I also have contributed over the years to more local publications with the Scottish Wedding Directory, Tide and Knot Scotland, Luxury Scottish Wedding, and My Scotland's Wedding as well, which I highly recommend for you guys to check out if you're looking for inspiration as well. But enough about me. You're not here to listen to my blabbing away about my background. We are here to meet our wonderful guest speaker, Kelly Mortimer. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Kelly to yourselves, guys. Kelly has worked, Kelly has worked all over the world for the past 20 years. She's supporting wedding venue teams at venues throughout the world, wedding suppliers, wedding vendors. And I have actually had the pleasure of meeting Kelly in 2016. She was my director of weddings at the principal hotel company, and she's mentored me since. We've worked together since then as well. And I was always so inspired by Kelly's stories, her experience, her knowledge, and everything about what Kelly does. So, Kelly, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
It's such a pleasure. I'm excited to be here because I get to go back to my roots a little bit and actually talk about wedding planning for a change. And because, as you know, what I talk about all the time now is helping those wedding venues and vendors to be the best they can be in their businesses and serve our couples better. And so to have this opportunity to actually go back to wedding planning for a short time is brilliant.
Absolutely amazing. And I know for a fact, guys, I've worked with Kelly since 2016, so for over 4 years now, and I've learned so much. And knowing that Kelly can pass this information to you guys, and she has worked at luxury venues throughout the world and with vendors, like I said, there's so much you can learn from Kelly. So I'm super excited, Kelly, for you to share what you've got for our couples organised today.
Amazing. Well, I'd love to know in the comments, guys, are you a supplier? Are you a bride? Are you a groom? Have you got a date set? Tell us kind of who you are, where you're joining from, and if you are indeed a bride or a groom, it would be great to know. And you can feel that Oscar and I have decided that we are not going to mention the C word, are we, Oscar?
Absolutely not. We're not thinking about it. We're keeping positive. We want to make sure that you guys are having a good time.
This is the only reference right now is to say we're not going to talk about it. So I'm not going to focus any of what I'm going to share with you on making it because of what's going on right now. What I'm going to share with you are my tips and tricks for a fantastic wedding planning experience. And it doesn't matter if you're getting married this weekend or in 3 years' time, this is going to be relevant to you. So I'm excited to share it with you.
Amazing. Fantastic. Shall I share your presentation, Kelly, on the screen right now?
Absolutely. And also, maybe you can keep an eye on the comments for me. So if you read anything out, if I miss anything or any questions, and anybody who is kind of letting us know what's going on. So guys, don't be shy. Talk to me in the comments. I would love to see who you are, where in the world you're joining from. And if you can hear me, just give me a Y for yes. Let's just start with something easy. Just give me a Y for yes if you can hear me, so that I know that the chat is working. I know that everything is functioning. And then I know that if you've got questions and comments, I'm definitely not going to miss them. So whilst you are doing that, remember Y for yes. Just going to take a little small step into the comments. Thanks, Oscar. Absolutely. Okay, so let me share my presentation, which Oscar has done, and I am just going to get it onto the big screen so you can see what is happening. Amazing. So guys, today what I'm sharing with you is wedding planning tips that only the pros know. So let's get cracking. I want to start by telling you, no matter what happens, if at the end of your wedding day, you are married to the person you love, then it was indeed a roaring success. So just give me a heart emoji if that resonates with you, because we definitely, and rightly so, listen, I'm a perfectionist. I have been planning weddings for 20 years and I love everything to go amazingly well and beyond expectation. But ultimately, I want you to feel a sense of kind of relief at the moment that if you, at the end of your wedding day, are in fact married to the person you love, then it was a roaring success, guys. So just give me a little heart emoji if that makes sense.
It's the most important part of the wedding, of course. So
in this session, I'm going to share with you a checklist of tips to ensure your wedding day is dramatically more successful than it would have been if you didn't have this checklist. Now, I'm going to slightly caveat that with saying that this is not an exclusive list. This isn't 100% of everything you need to know. It's definitely going to move you forward and ensure that your wedding has more success than it would have done without this checklist. I'm going to be going through those 3 key areas of your wedding. We're going to cover a lot in this session. So Oscar and I called it a mini planning, but it's a pretty plan, actually. I'm going to cover 3 of your key areas of your wedding: the ceremony, the pre-dinner reception, and the dinner and the after party. And we're going to break those down. And I'm actually going to spend just a little bit more time on the ceremony than the other 2 sections. Now, ultimately, what I'm going to talk to you about is what I like to refer to as the flow. And the flow is, you know what I mean, Oscar, don't you, with the flow?
Absolutely love it, indeed.
What I'm talking about here is the logistics of your day. And what I mean is, it is absolutely critical that you have, beautiful chairs and gorgeous flowers and the most epic dress or tuxedo. But let me tell you guys, if you do not have the flow worked out, then actually that stuff, the other stuff, doesn't actually matter. And what I mean by that is your guests will remember how the day felt overall. Your guests will remember how the day flowed. They won't remember whether you had orchids or daisies in your bouquet. And so what I'm going to talk to you today is not about styling. It's not about styling. It's about the flow. And interestingly enough, whenever I talk about doing wedding planning sessions, people think I'm going to talk about styling, but I'm going to get into really what the professionals know makes the difference, and that is the flow. So again, just give me a little thumbs up, little heart emoji, if this is all making sense and if this is actually what you would love to know about. Now, before we get started, I want to encourage you to delete this phrase from your wedding planning vocabulary. Vocabulary,
well done.
The phrase is, I presume. I presume is the single-handed biggest reason for complaints and issues after a wedding. Let me explain what I mean. Whenever my team or one of my brides at any point has ever had any kind of negative moment in the wedding, it's because of a miscommunication. It is rarely because a bride will come to us and say, I didn't like the food, or I didn't like the music, or something didn't work. It is always because of a miscommunication. And that is because as a wedding couple, we have used this phrase, well, I presume. I'll give you an example if you're thinking, what on earth is she talking about? For example, let's say you presume your canapes are served on silver trays by the waiters that work for the venue. Potentially, your canapes could be served from a small buffet station where guests go and help themselves during the drinks. Now, do you see how at that moment at the wedding, that could turn into a complaint? You could be unhappy with your pre-dinner drinks reception because you presumed canapes were going to be served on a tray and they're actually on a station. That's no one's mistake. That's an issue of I presume. And so I really want to encourage you throughout the rest of your wedding planning, if at any point, and definitely in this session, if you hear that little voice in your head saying, well, I presume that XYZ is going to happen, then I want you to make a little note of it and make sure that actually what you presume is going to happen is going to happen. And Oscar, I'm sure, coming from your operational background, you can totally resonate with this point.
Absolutely. I think it is something that quite often, but same with venues, quite often we presume things as well, but it's actually having these discussions. And if we think we presume something, it's a question to be had and a conversation to be had. Absolutely. It works both ways.
100%. And I love that. You're absolutely right. So before we get started, we're deleting, I presume, and anytime that pops into your head, you're going to confirm. So just before I get into the nitty gritty, I'm just going to take 30 seconds to introduce myself. Oscar gave you a little bit of info about me, but let me tell you who I am. My name is Kelly Mortimer, and I am a wedding industry expert, speaker, and trainer. So what I do is work with wedding venues and suppliers, so planners and florists and DJs and photographers globally. And I teach and train those teams to be the best they can be, to serve you as a bride or a groom to their absolute best of their ability and give you the best experience and wedding day that they possibly can. Now, these are some of my clients that I currently work with, and you will recognize many of these names and global brands that I work with.
Absolutely.
Before I began training teams and working with venues and suppliers, I spent a lot of time working directly with wedding couples. So 10 years, destination weddings, and I lived and worked in amazing countries such as Mexico, Cuba, Sri Lanka, Spain, and the Dominican Republic, planning beautiful, mostly beach weddings for American and English couples there in those amazing places. After destination weddings, I returned to the UK and I worked in London at the most famous 5-star hotels in our capital city. So you will recognise these names: Claridge's, Rosewood, and Mandarin Oriental. And during my time at those properties, I had the privilege to help to design and deliver events and weddings for some of the most famous celebrities and royalty, and even including, you might notice this little picture here, Her Majesty the Queen. I did in fact walk Her Maj into Claridge's ballroom, one of the best moments of my career. One of my other favourite things was doing the wedding weekend for Katherine Jenkins, who was an absolute delight to work with, and I really loved doing her wedding weekend. After that, I became a group wedding director for 45 hotels, and I had a team, one of whom was the lovely Oscar, working for 45 hotels and that team of 50 wedding coordinators. And it was my job to train and encourage and lead that team of wedding coordinators. And we had a brilliant time, didn't we, Oscar? It was a great
fantastic time. I really enjoyed. Kelly used to host these wedding planning workshops for us once a year, and she still does it. She does it internationally now. And the last one I actually attended with Kelly, there was over 2,000 venues and suppliers attending. It's absolutely incredible. But you did definitely give us that opportunity of learning how to do our job best for the benefit of our couples. Absolutely. I mean, one thing that you forgot to mention is that at Rosewood London, you were the first director of romance. I mean, the role in itself just speaks the volume.
So I was on the opening team at the 5-star hotel, Rosewood London. It's a global luxury brand, and we opened the first one in London quite a few years ago now. And yes, my title was Director of Romance, and my brides loved it. They loved telling their bridesmaids, you know, oh, I have a Director of Romance. It was definitely a big win.
Absolutely loved it. When you said that to me first time, I was blown away by it as well.
It was a great one. And guys, if you are just joining us and if you just missed the beginning, don't worry, you haven't missed anything yet. We've just been chatting. I'm about to dive into those wedding planning tips. I would love to know, are you a bride? Are you a groom? Where in the world are you joining from? Let us know. It's always so brilliant to see who is joining us. And I can see some lovely familiar faces who are typing away in the comments. So do talk to me. Let me know your questions. Let me know who you are. Just even write the word bride or write the word groom if that applies to you. Okay, the point of all of this, of me telling you my life story, is that I want you to know that you are in safe hands. So what I'm going to share with you is are things that I've learned over years and years of delivering events and weddings for normal couples around the world, as well as those celebrities and royalty. Now, stay with me, because at the end, I'm going to give you 2 huge insider bonus tips. So as well as everything else, I'm going to give you those at the end. So do stay with me. Now, I really suggest that you grab a pen and a piece of paper. If you are currently planning or thinking about start planning a wedding, then you will need a pen and a piece of paper. And I'm going to tell you a true story right now. And I delivered this wedding planning tips talk to hundreds of brides and hundreds of grooms at Olympia in London. This was last year, obviously, when we were allowed to have these kind of events. And at the end, a bride came up to me and she said, oh, I saw everyone making notes on their phone and I thought, how stupid, like, why are you making notes on your phone? And she said halfway through, I'd given them so many tips, she grabbed her phone and started furiously typing away to try and retain everything. So guys, if you are planning a wedding, then grab a piece of paper and a pen and start getting ready to jot down these top tips. Hey, Facebook user who is living in Germany, you are a bride, good to see you. I don't know your name, but hi and thanks for joining. Okay. One of three. We're going to start with the ceremony. Are you ready? We're going to race through these tips. Here we go. Get ready with your pen. Now we're going to start at the beginning. I want you to think about the start time of your ceremony. People can get this very wrong. So what I mean by that is we often go for a start time right in the middle of the day. And right in the middle of the day is when your guests might be hungry because it's actually lunchtime. So I really want you to think about the correct time for you to start your wedding. And the best thing is to actually work from the top as in the end and work your way back. How many hours do we want for dancing? How many hours do we want for our dinner and our drinks reception and our ceremony? And then work your way back so you get to the start time. Think about your VIPs and your readers. There is not, a limit on where you can have a seating plan. I enjoy a seating plan at a ceremony as well as a dinner. And that's not to say that every guest has to have an allocated seat, but you definitely want them for the VIPs and the readers. So what this means is you get little place cards or just little postcards and you pop your VIPs and your readers' names on, and those cards go out before everybody arrives. It saves your groomsmen having to work out where people are supposed to sit. It saves any embarrassment when people sit too far close to the front or they're not sure if they're allowed to go in the third row if that's open for friends and family. Your readers need to be on the end of the row, either aisle or on the other side, so that when they're ready to do their reading, they can jump out without moving 5 people off the row. So make sure we've got a seating plan for the VIPs and the readers. Think about where guests are going to park. Certainly, if you're in a city centre, you're going to need to make sure there is nearby parking, even if it's not on site. Investigate, Google, and have that information ready to hand to your guests before. Is the entrance to your ceremony easy to find? Now, for example, if you are getting married in a country house in the middle of nowhere, is it likely your guests might drive past the actual driveway to the property? And if so, you need to station a groomsman or someone from the bridal party right there at the end of the driveway so that they can kind of be an obvious signpost, human signpost, for people to find their way in.
Thankfully, we get pipers in Scotland, Kelly, so you can hear them before you see them.
Definitely for our Scottish couples, that's going to be a good win. Now, think about who has the music for your ceremony. If it's recorded, who's going to press play? Is it on a USB stick? Is it on an iPod or an iPad? And if it is, who is the actual person who presses play? These small details are the kind of things that at the last minute we suddenly think, oh my God, who is pressing play at the right moment? Allocate someone the job and make sure if it's not someone from the venue that you actually do have one of your bridal party ready to do it. If you are having live music at the ceremony, then please agree with them, what time they should arrive, because they should not be arriving 2 minutes before you come down the aisle, and B, what do they need? Now, in my experience, your live musicians will need things like chairs with no arm, so that if they are playing instruments, they can actually play them and not be restricted by chairs with arms. They will probably need a glass of water on the floor next to them so that they can sing or play without kind of losing their breath or losing their voice. So agree the time they're going to arrive, because you want them playing when guests walk in, and make sure you've got everything that they need for the ceremony. Now, this is a massive pet hate of mine. I'm going to talk to you about buttonholes. Now, buttonholes are one of the things that can really ruin the look of your photos. Oh, I've gone too far. Can really ruin the look of your photos. And what I mean is, if the boys are left to their own devices, your buttonholes will end up all over the show, okay? You're going to have some people putting it on the left lapel, some people putting it on the right lapel, some people it will be down, you know, halfway down their body, some it's going to be up near their neck. And when you do that gorgeous group shot with all the bridal party or all the boys or everyone, their buttonholes are going to be all over the place, and it's not going to make for that gorgeous sharp photo that you really want to have. So here's your solution. Simply allocate one person to attach every buttonhole. So even if it's in the wrong place, at least they all look the same. And you can allocate that job to someone and then get them to go and watch a YouTube video on how to perfectly attach buttonholes. And this will really make sure those images, those photos look epic. I want you to consider
a question, Kelly, actually, in relation to, I think the corsage is, sorry, the buttonholes kind of introduced the question. Do you recommend corsages for the ladies?
Great question. I don't think it's as important as it is for the boys, because your bridal party, if you've got groomsmen and bridesmaids, likely what's going to happen is you're going to have buttonholes on the boys and you're going to have bouquets.
Oh, we've got a technical problem there, guys. Give me 1 wee second. We're just going to check with Kelly. Oh, there we are. We've got you back. Yes.
Okay, let's go. So the corsages, you can definitely use those corsages. But it's not as necessary as it would be for the boys to have that nice neat line, if that makes sense for the imagery. Now, if you've got, for example, you know, we do see, don't we, girls being kind of the traditional best man now, the best woman, then you would want to make sure she has something that shows that she is separate to the rest of the bridal party. Laura saying, Laura, you and me both. Okay, consider having a no photo policy, what we call an unplugged ceremony. Now, this again, a massive pet hate is where you've got all of this gorgeousness, you've got a gorgeous ceremony, you've got everybody looking beautiful, and then everyone, all the guests are holding up phones, or even worse, Oscar, have you seen people holding up iPads to take? And what you have is this gorgeous ceremony, which is now simply a sea of screens. And guys, you have probably paid a professional photographer to get amazing images for you. And this is going to ruin those shots. You're going to ruin it for your photographer. They will not be able to get those amazing shots. So consider having a no photo policy during the ceremony and leave it to your photographer. Your guests will be in the moment. You won't get this horrible picture with everybody holding screens up, and they'll actually be with you in the moment. Now, you can easily have your registrar, your celebrant, at the beginning say, we do request that there are no photos during the ceremony, and they'll simply think it's some sort of legal or religious rule, and they will follow what they're told to do. So do consider an unplugged ceremony. So where will the processional lineup happen? When you're about to walk down the aisle, we need to line up before we make our entrance. And what I want you to think about is that needs to be somewhere kind of round a corner where guests can't see you. So that as you're kind of fluffing and getting everything ready, you're actually having that lineup in private. So think about where it's going to happen. Pre-agree what order the bridesmaids are going in. I see many weddings where at the last minute, there's basically a fight about who's going to go down the aisle first? And you have people saying, oh my God, should we go in high order? Or should it be this person or the most important bridesmaid? And just agree it in advance so that those moments before we walk down the aisle are calm and enjoyable. Where do your bridesmaids go after they walk down the aisle? Just have it up as a plan. There's no right or wrong. Are they going to stand to the side the entire time through the ceremony? Are they going to have place cards, as we discussed earlier, reserving seats for them? Think about who will perfect you before you actually walk down the aisle and at the top of the aisle. So allocate that job to one of your bridal party. So before you walk, they've checked everything's perfect. And then when you get to the end of the aisle, they need to have that authority to actually jump up and readjust you. If, for example, the dress has flipped over as you've walked, or your veil's gone a bit askew, they need to feel confident that it's their job to perfect you just before you begin your nuptials. After the ceremony, who directs the guests and where? Is it someone from the venue? Is it one of your best men? Is it a toastmaster? Just make sure you know who is going to make the announcement and where they are directing those guests to. Now, I've got one for the grooms. Have we got any grooms actually watching with us? Do let me know. Just type the word groom in the comments if you are a groom and you are watching. Jim says, I know what she's talking about. Part of the fun, though. Which was that, the buttonhole? Let me know if you are a groom. I would love to hear from you. Drinks before or after the ceremony? Why not have both? Why not have both? That is my answer. Okay, grooms. Or brides, tell your grooms this. I want you to decide if you're going to look or if you're not going to look. Right? You know what I'm talking about, Oscar, don't you?
Yeah.
What happens is, if we don't make the decision, and again, there is no right or wrong, but if you don't make the decision in advance, then there is a bit of a panic that comes over. So as that groom is standing at the end of the aisle, he's not sure whether he should turn back and watch his loved one come towards him or if he should face forward. And if you haven't made the decision, then what happens is grooms do this. They look and then they look back and then they look. And then they look. It looks like they're about to have a mental breakdown and run away. So please decide if it's eyes forward or eyes to watch your beloved come down the aisle, and then stick with your decision. Your confetti shots will need coordination. Amazing confetti shots do not happen by chance. So you will need to think where it's going to happen, who is going to be involved, and you need one of your bridal party to actually orchestrate this for you. Have we got any bridesmaids watching? Have we got any maid of honors, bridesmaids? If you are, just put kind of bridesmaid or maid of honor. Just type the word in the comments. I'd love to know if you are joining us. This is another pet hate of mine, a little bit like the buttonholes, which is where we actually hold our flowers at the wrong place, in the wrong place. So brides and bridesmaids, your bouquets should be at your belly button. Yeah. Belly button, okay? Here, in this photo that I'm sharing, these flowers are way too high. And now you can probably even see the problem when you hold your flowers up here. Your shoulders go up. You look a bit nervous. You look a bit stiff. And I want you to practice with a hairbrush in front of the mirror at home, holding a hairbrush at your belly button. It's going to feel too low. You're going to think this is crazy. This feels too low. But watch what happens when you hold your hairbrush at your belly button. Your shoulders are going to come down. You're going to look really confident, and it's going to give you a whole different demeanor. So brides and bridesmaids, flowers at your belly button. At this moment when you walk down the aisle and you start to feel nervous and there's excitement and adrenaline, flowers at belly button is the biggest tip before you walk down the aisle.
And a lot of brides actually say to hold it comfortably because they feel, a lot of the time I had brides just about to go in, they never thought about it. And I said, lower it down and see how it feels. And they were like, actually, it feels more comfortable. It doesn't feel as heavy holding it down. So, yeah.
It's great. And then we lose all the beautiful detailing on the dress because we're covering it with our hands and our flowers. So you're absolutely right. And you can see here that Kate has clearly had some good advice about exactly where to hold her flowers, and see the difference, guys. Just give me a Y for yes if this makes sense. The difference, if you can see the difference it makes when you hold your flowers up here to when you hold them right down here at the belly button. It makes such a huge difference and will really change the look of your photographs, especially as you come down the aisle. Okay, we've done the ceremony. Let's move on to step 2. How are we doing for time, Oscar? Are we okay?
We're perfect. We're half an hour in, guys. We're kind of planning to be here for about another 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes. It depends on how many questions we've got from yourselves. Kelly's got tons of content for you, and it's super exciting because she is the expert in this, and she's got the experience not just from the UK market but from around the world as well, which is super exciting. But do make sure that you post your questions, your comments in the comment box below. That way we can give you really nice tips that will be relevant to where you're at with your wedding planning as well.
Amazing. So let's go on to the step 2 out of 3, which is your pre-dinner reception. So how do guests get from the ceremony to the pre-dinner reception? Now, this might be one of those I presume moments. It might be they walk around the corner because it's in the same location or venue. It might be that we need to arrange taxis or, a minibus or a coach, or it may be that guests drive themselves. But make sure we know how they're getting from the ceremony to the pre-dinner reception and that guests are clear on what's going to happen as well. Now, the length of time that you have your pre-dinner drinks reception is really important. And I want you to work it out how long or short it's going to be and why you're going to have this amount of time. What I tend to see is that we accidentally create this pre-dinner reception. The amount of time is accidental and that isn't good. So what we want to think about is really, usually we're talking about 1 hour to an hour and a half, depending on logistics. Now, this can be variable based on your location. If you are moving from a church or a synagogue over to a venue, then you may need that time to be a little bit longer. What we don't want to do is make this too long. And guys, just tell me in the comments if you're thinking why we don't want to make this too long. Your guests will just get bored, okay? You're going to be off doing your photographs, and so you won't realize that they've been standing around for an hour and a half, and actually now they've had a little chat and a mingle, they are ready to move on. So really think about this time.
I've actually got a question, Kelly, that might kind of solve a couple of things about this as well. Any entertainment for drinks?
Yes, you can definitely have entertainment here. And again, this is a personal choice. And the longer your drinks reception, the more entertainment you're going to need. If you know this drinks reception is going to be 2 hours for whatever reason, maybe you've got to turn the ceremony room round for dinner and you need a little bit of extra time in terms of logistics, you will definitely want to plug in some entertainment to keep your guests amused. Otherwise, they're just going to get bored and we're going to lose momentum. And that is not what you want.
Definitely.
So you also want to think about seating. If everybody is just standing around in a garden or in a terrace or in a lobby area, that's great, but they're not going to be able to stand for an hour to an hour and a half. Think about all the girls with their big high heels on, and also please consider your older guests. They will just not be able to stand for that length of time.
Yeah.
If you are outside, think about shelter, come rain or shine. You've got to have a good plan B, guys. Don't leave this to chance on the day. And it isn't just about rain. I definitely have held weddings where during the drinks reception, yes, here in the UK, it's been so warm that actually we have needed to have a plan B in terms of umbrellas or shade for especially older or pregnant guests to take care of them. So do think about shelter, come rain or shine. Be realistic about your amounts of food and beverage. Now, what I mean here is not that you suddenly have to up your budget. You do not have to up your budget in this area, okay? But I want you to be realistic. If your wedding package includes 1 glass of champagne and you're having a 90-minute reception, that is not going to be enough for the guests. Now, it doesn't mean you have to suddenly put another £1,000 worth of champagne behind the bar, but it does mean you have to have an option for guests to get another drink, even if they're buying it themselves. So work out what's good for you. Think, okay, can I actually have 2 glasses of champagne and then there'll be a pay bar if guests want another drink? But be realistic, guys. Tell me in the comments, how many glasses of champagne could you drink in an hour? Because I can tell you from experience that I can drink, a good 2-3 glasses in an hour quite comfortably and gently as I'm sipping and chatting to guests. Not when I'm on duty, not when I'm planning or anything, just to clarify. So please be realistic. If your wedding package only includes 1 glass of champagne, either add more or have an open bar option. Lisa says she can drink 5.
Well done, Lisa.
And the same with the food. If you are having canapes pre-dinner, 2 is not going to be enough. And for me, I'd almost rather have none than have a sparse amount. I don't know what you think about this, Oscar. If I see just a couple of canapes and then there's nothing, I'm like, oh, did it run out? Whereas if there never was a canapé, I kind of wouldn't have missed it. So do think about having a good handful of canapés or simply go with the drinks and maybe it's just crisps and nuts on the tables.
There's nothing worse than guests going, oh, is there any more canopies coming out? Because when there's an allowance and there's too little, then you kind of feel of, well, actually, should we have put more? And there's that kind of disappointment as well on the day. So it's better to plan it in advance for sure.
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm saying. Be realistic about that food and beverage. Okay. Let's get to the photography. Your guests are having their champagne and canapes, and you and your family and your new spouse are off having your official photographs. What I want you to do is create a photography list, okay? Actually write down a list of shots that are must-haves. These are the ones you cannot miss. So I want you to go right back to basics. So for example, you know, for me, it would have been, okay, my husband and I with my parents, my husband and I with his parents, my husband and I with both sets of parents. Literally plan out each shot that you must have. And there will be some, you know, there might be a great Auntie Mildred that absolutely must be in one of those shots. And if you don't have it listed, it could get missed. This also means that we don't waste time on shots that are not critical shots, and of course you would give this and share this list with your photographer. Now the other thing I want you to do is allocate 2 photography helpers. These are normally from your bridal party, your groomsmen, your siblings, someone who knows your key people, someone who knows who Auntie Mildred is. Okay, and those 2 people are going to have a copy of that photography list, and they are going to be lining up all of the people ready for their shot. Because let me tell you, the biggest waste of time during a drinks reception, when you're doing your photographs, it's not the photographer that's taking the time, guys. It is us as guests who are not there ready for our shot. And so have those helpers lining up, parents and siblings and Auntie Mildred and the groomsmen and the kids ready to go, so that we have that constant flow.
Wow.
Okay, this is the area right now in our drinks reception where we want our seating plan, or indeed our escort cards if we're doing it that way. Have your seating plan in the pre-dinner area. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, that one's obvious, but this is the difference. What I see is that lots of people put their seating plan outside the entrance to the wedding breakfast. So outside the ballroom or outside the marquee. And what happens is, whoever calls dinner, calls dinner. Ladies and gentlemen, dinner is now served. And we all start to move. And then guess what happens?
Bottleneck.
Bottleneck! Okay? And now you've had your guests standing around for 60 or 90 minutes or 2 hours in some extreme cases. And now they've got to stand in queue to find out where they're seated. Please put the seating plan right in the actual drinks reception. So whilst we're milling about chatting, we can actually check what table gets us seated on. And then there's no bottleneck and there's no queue.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've actually at the hotel when I used to work at, we used to recommend for ushers who maybe didn't have much involvement in the ceremony or something like that, that they would maybe get the seating plan before the wedding, familiarize themselves with the names. If there's people who haven't had a chance to look at it in the drinks reception room, they can find it easier or find their way around the table plan. So it's a lot smoother procession, maybe not a procession, but getting into the room as well. We've actually got a question, Kelly, as well for you. Any ideas on safety of gifts and cards? I think this is a very important one. What do you think?
So I have always allocated the safety of gifts and cards to one of the bridal party. It is tricky to allocate that to your venue team because they're busy serving your guests, setting everything up, getting everything done well for you. And so actually by saying to one of the best men or a bridesmaids, look, can you be in charge of the gift table? And every, after an hour when there's gifts and cards, take them up to the suite, take them up to the wedding room and just pop them inside. And then just have one person making sure that those things are moved up. Would you agree with that, Oscar?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it is about allocating somebody responsible within the family who you trust and you know that they're going to look after them, but also clearing them and not leaving things to lie about for too long as well. It especially applies to more kind of city centre public venues that there might be other functions going on as well. I suppose it is a little bit easier when you've got like a country estate where it's just exclusive use, but you still want to keep things safe.
Absolutely. And guys, I can see loads of more people have clicked on. If you are joining us, don't worry, this is available on replay. And if you are a bride or a groom, then just type the word bride or groom in the comments. We love to see who is joining us, because I can see that new people have clicked on, so do say hello. Okay, we're going into our third section, and then I'm going to give you two bonus tips at the end. So let's talk about the dinner and the after party. So, do you want to see or photograph the room before everyone else? Now, let me explain exactly what I mean by this. Your wedding breakfast room, your ballroom, your marquee, wherever you are having the kind of dinner dance, is going to be gorgeous. You will have spent time and effort getting the right flowers, the right chairs, the right lighting. And let me tell you that when your guests walk in, they're going to ruin it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Move the chairs. They're going to throw their jackets on the back of the chair. They're going to ruin it, my darlings. And so what I want to ask you is, do you want to see the room, and do you want the photographer to photograph the room before everybody walks in? And my recommendation would be yes. So plan that in to your schedule. Who's calling dinner and announcing you in? So what I mean by that is, do you have a Toastmaster? Is it the banqueting manager at the venue? Is it your best man? You know, just make sure you know exactly who's doing the announcements for you.
There's another one on that one as well, Kelly, because I remember working at the venue. And again, don't presume that venue know how to address you for the ceremony. Obviously, the trends have changed so much. We see grooms taking the bride's names. We see double-barreled names. We see people not wanting to be addressed by names. So it's very important to have that conversation as well, I think.
100%. And you've beat me to it with my next point.
Oh, sorry. I just noticed as well.
We're so on the same page. We're so on the same page. What do you want to be announced as? You know, obviously we've got all sorts of situations. So is it Mr. and Mr.? Is it Mr. and Mrs.? Is it, you know, Bob and Bill? Is it the bride and groom? Do you want to be announced by titles? You know, many women don't change their last names these days, so it might not be Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You might prefer, you know, Sarah and Dave. You know, decide what it is you want to be announcing as, exactly as Oscar said. Dawn's got a question: receiving line or not? I had experience of couples saying they didn't want one, but on the day it would naturally happen and be really difficult. Yes, Dawn, the tip is you hide your bride and groom, or hide your wedding. That's basically it. So what you do is, before you call dinner, or whoever is calling dinner, you take your bride and groom round the corner so they are nowhere to be seen. And then you have your MC say, ladies and gentlemen, please make your way into the ballroom for dinner. And they cannot stop, because there is no bride and groom to talk to. And that is the best way to avoid a receiving line if we don't want one, because it's going to add at least half an hour, 40 minutes onto your timeline.
Oh, yes. It used to be my kind of peeving element of the wedding, the receiving lines, because the bigger the number, the longer it takes, and it's very difficult to say to the guests, please speed it up, because it's natural that we want to chat and whatnot. So yeah, definitely an hour sometimes as well for that. So brilliant.
we don't usually need a receiving line these days in general.
No.
So the next thing is, do consider how you can have music while the guests are going in and finding their seats. This is one of the best ways to create atmosphere. And I see this missed at so many weddings where they don't have a planner to help them. So when your guests have been called in, they're walking in, the wedding couple are hidden around the corner, our guests are walking in, we want music playing. Now this could be live or it could be recorded, whatever works for you, but have music, because they're going to walk into this gorgeous room, and if it's flat, if it's quiet, they're just not going to get that atmosphere. Now, the music you want here is actually upbeat. We actually want some kind of party music. You know, things like tonight's going to be the Black Eyed Peas song I'm thinking of, Oscar. You know, I can't sing it. So
tonight is going to be a good night, yes.
Right? Imagine the doors open and that's playing, and your guests walk in and they're, look at the flowers, look at the lighting, and the music's there. Can you feel it? You start to create a buzz, and that's what you want to do. So make sure we have music whilst your guests are walking in.
That's so often I speak about this as well, because music makes or breaks the atmosphere, definitely. And it's about the right choice, but also considering the music at all stages of the wedding day.
100%. The wedding couple need to know your path to the top table. Depending on your space and how you've laid your room out, you may find some of your tables are snug, and once your guests are in, they've obviously moved their chairs out. So make sure you have a clear path to the top table, so once you're announced, it's a nice smooth walk in for you. If you are a heterosexual couple, then please let the groom lead you in. Now, I'm really sorry. I am a feminist. I am a staunch feminist. But let me tell you, there is something weird about a bride leading a groom into a room. It looks like she's dragging him. So if you are a heterosexual couple, please let your groom lead you in. It will make all the difference.
And especially if the dress has got a long chain, I've seen grooms tripping over them. It just doesn't look the part. No, definitely.
For some reason, it doesn't actually work. Absolutely.
No.
Okay, sticking with our dinner here, think about kids' activity packs. If you know you've got a handful of kids or even one kid at your wedding, then do pre-organized activity packs so that this allows the parents of the kids to actually enjoy the wedding. You can buy, in the pound shop, guys, it doesn't have to be expensive, a little rucksack or a little bag with a coloring book and pens, and then pop that on the chair for the child, so when they arrive in, they instantly have things to play with. Think about where you're going to seat your older guests and your pregnant guests. Now, when you're laying out your seating plan, and yes, this is a big thing for you to get your heads around, where everyone's going to sit on each table, I really encourage you to sit older and pregnant guests with easy access to the bathroom. Don't make them walk all the way across the room and the dance floor every time they need to visit the facilities. So do consider this in your seating plan. Consider breaking up the speeches. Speeches are great, right? We love speeches, but they also can drag on. And we know that mostly people will give you about 7 minutes. And I say that after talking to you for nearly an hour now. Most humans will give you about 7 minutes attention span. So think about, for example, you could have one speech once everybody's in the room and sat down, like the father of the bride speech. That could be a welcome speech once everybody's sat. You could have the best man speech, halfway through between the main course and the dessert. You could have the groom speak at the end over coffee. It doesn't all have to be grouped together. So do think about breaking up the speeches.
I really like that, actually, because that idea is brilliant, because you've got the hot food out of the way, and then dessert tends to be a cold dessert anyway, so that works perfectly, and it doesn't keep your guests hungry, and it flows a lot better. Again, coming back to the flow subject as well.
It's all about the flow. It allows them to digest each course. It gives them some time to breathe before the next course comes, and we're not just rushing loads of food and then making people sit for an hour and listen to speeches.
Yeah.
The next thing, and this again, one of my sort of top pet hates and tips, is about your first dance. If you are not doing one of these gorgeously choreographed, dances that we see on Instagram and YouTube, I want you to really plan out your first dance, because if you are uncomfortable with your first dance, and lots of people are, and that is totally, totally fine, then what I want you to think about is having 60 seconds with you and your loved one just swaying, you've got your photo, everybody's cheered, everybody's got their moment, and there are orchestrated couples ready to come onto the floor. So these couples would normally be your parents, your bridal party, your siblings, and they know that at a particular point in the song, they are just going to go onto the dance floor. What will happen, guys, is that you will just do your 1 minute. So you've done it, right? You've ticked that box. We did a first dance. We got our photo. And it will look like it was totally natural, that people just arrived onto the dance floor, and then everybody else will join you. Because what we want to avoid is this, right? You're doing your first dance, and then you think, oh God, I'm so uncomfortable. Please come and join me. Please come and join us. Have you seen couples do that? It's just
unfortunately
awkward. It's so awkward, and we feel the pain of the wedding couple. We see they don't really want to do it, and then we all feel awkward. So avoid the please come and join us, and have orchestrated couples ready to go. Be clear on your vacate times. There is a difference at venues between music off, bar closed, and everybody out the building. So just make your vacate times are not, I presume, because often these will be different. Music often has to go off first, then the bar, and then, of course, guests out the door. So be really clear on these 3 finish times, or what I call vacate times, so that there's no misunderstanding. Guys, what do you want to save? You've got to know what you want to save, and you need to write it down and tell your coordinator or your caterer or your venue or whoever is the responsible person. Most of us want to save the place cards from the top table. We want to save a menu and a seating plan. And if you do not tell before, what will happen is that the cleaning team will come in after the wedding and everything will be gone. So when you ask for it the next day, it will be too late. Okay, so now we have this to-do list. What do we do with it? We'll break your planning areas into months. It really helps to be overwhelmed. If you think, okay, in January, I'm going to focus on this. In February, I'm going to focus on this. In March, I'm going to focus on this. Break the planning, all the different topics, into months to be overwhelmed and work on a few things at a time. I promised you 2 bonuses, so here they are. Just give me a Y for yes if you are still with me. Give me a Y for yes or a smiley face, or hit the love button, hit the like button, or the emojis, so that I know that you are still with us. And I'm going to give you those 2 bonuses. Bonus 1 is I want you to create cheat sheets for on the day. This is especially important if you do not have a wedding planner, and even if you do have a venue coordinator, this can be really helpful. It's an on-the-day checklist for your bridal party and or your groomsmen. So this is not about your suppliers or your venue. This is about your internal team, and it's a checklist for them. I find that most bridal parties and groomsmen, they really want to help. They just don't know what to do. They got no idea what they're supposed to do. And so by creating this cheat sheet, this checklist, you're going to help them. This is essential if you don't have a planner, and it enables you to stop worrying on the day and actually relax and enjoy your wedding. Because if in the back of your mind you're thinking, did someone do X, Y, and Z? Has someone put this out? Has someone done this? You won't relax and enjoy your day. This is the kind of thing that you want your cheat sheet to look like. I will run you through a couple of these key things. So we've got
this. If I just bring it up on the screen just now?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever's easy for you.
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So what we've got here is the seating plan for the ceremony, because remember, it will be your team, your bridal party or groomsmen, who will place those cards out for the most important guests. We've got a checklist for the church. We've got telephone numbers for drivers who are bringing vital people. We have got the number of order of services. We know who's got the music and where it needs to go. We've got the name of the person who's touching the buttonholes. Do you see how this is now all tallying in together? We have got ushers outside to direct guests on where to park and to greet. And we have got the end of ceremony, what needs to happen. Checklist for the venue, what's going to happen on arrival, where do people go, the photo call list and who's in charge of it, all of that kind of stuff. Key contact information, the name of the key bridal party members with their telephone number, key timings, the menu. Imagine how many people ask a best man, what's the vegetarian option? Or I've got nut allergies. He's got no ideas. Have it all there. Coaches and taxi numbers and miscellaneous. So what to do if someone cancels, who to tell, what time the photo booth is arriving. All these extra details can go on your cheat sheets. Okay, you print out your cheat sheets and you give them to your bridal party, your groomsmen, your best men, and then you let them deliver all of the details. Okay, the second bonus, and then I'm going to open to any Q&A, is I wonder if you know how the venue team knows all the details. This is a question I used to get asked all the time by my wedding couples. They'd say, but how do you know everything in your mind? And what if you get hit by a bus? They literally used to say to me, what do we do if you get hit by a bus and you're not there on the day? And the answer is something called a BEO, or in other venues, they are called function sheets. Now, what this is, guys, is basically a wedding plan. It's an internal document that your venue will have where your timings, your menu, everything that's important, your suppliers, everything will go on this BEO, banquet event order, or a function sheet. Every venue has one. And what I want you to do is to talk to your venue and say, can I please sit down with you a couple of weeks before the wedding and go through the BEO or the function sheet with you so that we are both on exactly the same
page?
This allows you peace of mind during the wedding that they have it all written down perfectly and there will be no mistakes. Okay. Well, to round up, guys, success doesn't just happen. It is planned for. And what we've talked about here is really the logistics and the flow of weddings. And when you plan for that, it means your wedding day will be a huge success. If anybody wants to come over and join me on Instagram, you can find me here, wedding_Kelly. I do mostly post content for suppliers and venues, but you are very welcome to join me, wedding_Kelly.
Fantastic. Right. This has been a brilliant session, Kelly. As you've said, we are now open to questions and answers. Guys, we highly encourage you, this is your last chance before we finish up with Kelly to ask her any final questions. And it is about wedding planning tips and advice. And I think that you've packed so much information for couples today that it's been absolutely brilliant. And everything you've talked about is exactly what I would suggest to couples to do as well. So brilliant. That's been absolutely fantastic. We've actually got one question that I forgot to mention before. We've got wine on tables or served.
Okay, this really depends on the venue and on the caterers. So it would be always my preference to serve wine from the waiters, if at all possible. For a couple of reasons. I think it's just a nicer experience for your guests if they are being served rather than serving themselves. It also ruins the look of your table. So if you have to have ice buckets and coolers and things with the bottles on, it really ruins the look. So if you've got gorgeous centerpieces, those buckets and bottles can ruin the look. Now, having said that, this is often more a case of budget. So often you will simply need to pay more for servers who will be your wine waiters, and that may not be your priority in your budget, in which case don't worry about it, have the wine on the table, your guests won't care, they'll just pour themselves a glass.
Perfect. And I absolutely agree with you. It's a lot smoother to have waiters. I just loved it at the hotels that I used to work at. We used to serve the dishes and there was a team of wine servers coming out and guests were literally just about to tuck into their food and the wine was coming out. It's just so impressive as well. And guests enjoy themselves a lot more as well. Guys, final questions. Any final questions for Kelly before we finish up for today? I'm just checking actually about your sharings. It's been a good session today, a good Facebook Live session. So I'm just checking for any of our winners today. But I'm going to check about that again in just a moment. Any final things? As obviously we've had a few questions popping here and there. Kelly, anything else that you would you've just thought about or something that you would advise to couples to think about?
It's all about the logistics and the flow. So, think about the timings, think about where people are going, think about your guests' comfort through the day, because guests will moan about things that you haven't even thought about. So just making sure that flow is functioning.
We've got more questions. Perfect, guys. Thank you very much. So do you recommend midnight buffet?
Midnight buffet. Yes, so you can either do it as a buffet or you can do it as substantial canapes. So again, this depends on budget, depends on your caterer, your venue, your servers. So yes, you can definitely do midnight snacks or midnight munchies, as I used to call them, because this soaks up the alcohol basically. So this is a great thing to do. Mini burgers, bowls of mac and cheese, pizza. It's all the stuff we want after we've had a couple of glasses of wine and we've had a dance. And you can either do it on a buffet station or you can definitely have servers pass around little mini bowls or mini plates of burgers and mac and cheese. This works really, really well.
Perfect. What about a similar question? What about evening buffet? People tend to be reluctant.
The evening buffet obviously slightly different to the midnight munchies, because your evening buffet will often be about 9 o'clock if you've had an early wedding breakfast. So if you're having a wedding breakfast at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, you will definitely need some sort of buffet later on. And sometimes we have our kind of B-list guests, don't we, who come after dinner. And so we're going to need some snacks for them. And this is really up to, a bride or a groom to decide if they want to put that food on and how it works with the timings of the day. If your wedding breakfast is at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, then I don't see why you need to really put food on again at 9, but you might bring your midnight snacks a little bit earlier and maybe have, snacks at 10 or 10:30.
Perfect, fabulous, guys. Just checking for any final questions or comments. We've got fantastic feedback from everyone. Fabulous tips. Thanks, Kelly. We had people whying and loving stuff before as well. We've got another question. Oh, actually, perfect. Thank you. What is better, traditional cake or wedding muffins?
So this is absolute personal choice for your wedding. It's what you genuinely prefer. Now, the difference is if you have a traditional cake, you're going to get the photo. You're going to get the Instagrammable moment of the two of you cutting the cake. If you have muffins or cupcakes, you don't tend to have that same feel. Even if you kind of stage it, it doesn't feel the same because obviously you're not going to cut those small cakes. Now, obviously with the small ones, it can be easier to hand out to your guests and it gives you something a little bit different. So it's honestly personal choice, but bear in mind you won't get that traditional shot of the two of you cutting the cake.
Well, I've got an idea here because we've done that for our wedding. We had a cupcake tower with a top tier for cutting, so it kind of married both of the ideas together, which was quite nice. Just another idea for you guys as well. Perfect, guys. I'm just checking for who has shared my video today. I'm not sure how I'm seeing that, but if you have shared my video, make sure that you comment in the comment box below. Before we finish our session, I will make sure that I announce our winners. And you've still got the time to share the video. It's for a chance to win a free 1-hour wedding planning consultation with myself, which is completely commitment free and something that a lot of couples absolutely love, particularly popular with couples who are maybe in the final stages of wedding planning and needing that little bit of confidence and expert advice that they've not missed anything. One of my couples actually referred to it as a sanity check before the wedding day itself, and I think it sums it up as well quite greatly. Perfect. Great. Thanks. We've got fantastic feedback.
It was such a pleasure to be with you guys this evening, and to go back to my roots of wedding planning and sharing tips for brides or grooms.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kelly. Before we go, guys, just wanted to let you know that I am available for wedding planning couples. The idea of working with wedding planners is to reduce the time you spend on wedding planning and also looking at maximizing your wedding budgets. I can be available for your wedding planning as individual consultations, on the day coordination for maybe the dry hire venues or venues with no coordinators there on the day, as well as full wedding plan. If that would be something of interest to yourselves, you can book my 15-minute free consultation. And if you want to check out my latest guide on how to not make mistakes when you're planning your wedding, that's available in the link on the screen just now, which is bit.ly/Oscar-mistakes-to-avoid. We just need your email address and the guide is for you to take. Before we finish up for today, I am super excited to let you guys know that I'm actually bringing a kilt supplier to speak with me at the Facebook Live next Thursday. That's 1st of October at 6 p.m. 80-yard Kilts will be joining me with Kyle to talk about wedding attire for traditional Scottish weddings for the gents, and Kyle is super excited to talk about kilts, tartans, and how they work together at weddings as well. And before we finish up, I'm just going to check for any final questions or comments. Justina saying, joined you late, but it was a great session, very informative to all our brides and grooms. A little love heart. Bernica says, thank you very much. Thank you so much. It was great and amazing tips. Thank you very much, guys. Perfect, guys. If there's no more questions, it leaves me to thank Kelly very much about spending the evening with us, sharing all the advice. 20 years of experience has been absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure many couples will have found it super useful as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Guys, you have a lovely evening, and I'll see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Bye, guys.
Bye.